Hey peeps, I'm Michelle.
Hey, it's Kat.
Hey everyone, I'm Natalie.
Hey, what up? It's Faith.
Hey, it's Lori.
Hey, Sydney.
And this is the Red Lips and Mic Drops podcast.
Red lips and mic drops, thick hips and lip gloss. I'm talking issues and our thoughts. The world's unfair, so let's talk.
Hey, what up? It's Faith, and today we're going to talk about... Hit it, Kat. Let's roll the wheel.
Ready? Today's wheel topic is... Oh!
We're talking about relationship between intimacy and business.
Yes.
That's a whole lot of whole.
That's a big topic.
But like, where do we start with
The
that?
interpretation of that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, especially since we're business owners that work from home, a lot of us. So when does the business start and the intimacy stop?
I mean, my brain immediately went to personal, but that's
Right.
That's where my brain went, because with my business, Keith is like, your head is always in that damn computer. Or well, not so much anymore because now I'm cognizant of it, but it has disrupted parts of our relationship before where it's like, am I even here? You know, and I've felt very guilty about that in the past. So that is a problem. Does anybody else experience that? A lot of people do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Big
for
time.
sure. Absolutely. I find myself that because I'm working from home, I just need to quickly do this. And then it turns to 3 hours of me sitting in the office doing something. And my husband is downstairs watching TV or doing something else. And there's not really that. You would expect working from home, you would have a higher level of connection, but you have much more disconnect, I feel.
Yeah.
You know, I don't turn it off. And so it causes some issues. I don't turn it off ever. It's 24/7. I
Absolutely.
have 2 iPhones. Like I told you guys yesterday, I'm morphing into one of them, right? Like I'm just going to morph into an iPhone. And I just don't turn it off. And then I'm out doing makeup. And then I'm coming home and answering emails and doing all the other stuff, you know. And I was at brunch last Saturday and I was answering 26 emails that I had to get to. And I was supposed to be spending time with my boyfriend at brunch. So he doesn't complain a lot to me, but it's a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Keith has never complained to the point where it is like, oh my gosh, you're a horrible person. He understands, and he's almost so understanding that it's like, who is this person? And how are you so understanding? But I have to think about myself too, because I can get so enamored with everything. Like Lori said, I mean, the clock just keeps going and going. And then 4 hours later, you're like, oh my God. And I don't want to be the antagonist of a Hallmark movie. Like I don't.
Right.
I want to be that guy.
I had a procedure the other day and I'm in the recovery room emailing you all. Like I'm responding to you. I'm like, Ben, do this, do that. The doctor's like, hello, did you not just have a procedure done? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't have time. I got to work again, you know? So
Right.
it's about learning to, I think it's maybe getting into the topic of, you know, how do we balance that more within ourselves? How do we separate? How do we make actual time in our schedule no work now? You know, we have all this other time in our schedule to do all the work, but maybe making a schedule of, I'm not going to work from this time to this time. I'm going to spend that time with my animals or my children or my spouse or my boyfriend or my girlfriend, you know, type of thing. Something like that, because it can take over your life and then you're just, you don't know how to turn it off. So.
Yeah. I think the problem for me is, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, is my business isn't work. You know, it's me.
Right.
It's literally me, you know, and taking that, I'm only going to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. is not a thing for me because I'm obsessed over it. Like it is my obsession. So I'm always thinking about it, even when I'm watching TV or scrolling through social media. And that's another thing is like my social media is how I find clients. So it's not like I can just scroll through social media, you know, mindlessly while I'm trying to go to sleep or something. It's always someone's posting about needing help. And I'm always like, oh, I can help you do that. So the separation between business and intimacy is very difficult for me because my business is so intimate to me.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
I think just like what Sydney was saying too, most of us run our businesses on social media. And so our significant others can get that misrelayed in their mind that we're just mindlessly scrolling when we're actually looking for clients or, responding to our community. And they don't necessarily understand that because they don't operate their businesses on social media.
The thing with that takes willpower, because I'll time block and I'll be like, screw that. I'm not like, you have to make it a habit like anything else. We were talking about that earlier today.
I think too, I've implemented a morning ritual for myself. So I do not pick up my phone now. Like, people wake up and they pick up their phone, and I did that for way too long. And it messes with your mental health. So I have my own morning ritual and I stick to that. And then on top of that, it's just creating boundaries too, right? It's creating boundaries with clients, with people, with yourself, saying like, I'm not going to go and respond to people right now, even though I have the time to, because somebody else or something else needs my attention, or even if it's just yourself, right? Because a lot of people take your time throughout the day. So it's not just social media. It's like, I'll get 1 million text messages a day from people needing things or help or whatnot. And I'm happy to help them. But like yesterday, I was trying to recover a little bit from something, and I felt like I couldn't, right? Like constant text messages and phone calls and emails and then social media, like posts. And so, just finding the tools to plan. I plan out my social media for a month now. I use apps to do that. And just trying to find like the time to do that, but then creating boundaries for yourself. Like you don't have to always respond to people right away. I went and met a friend for dinner and turned off my phone, and I had some soup with her because it made me feel better. Does that make sense? So it's like, it's like doing those things and like being conscious of making sure you do them.
Another thing is too, I grew up in a small town, and going back to the intimacy thing, people will always be like, well, you don't pay enough attention to your partner, because they're very immersed in the generational type of world, the traditional relationship. You're not focused on your partner enough. And I think what's really important to know is that whatever is agreed upon and accepted between you and your partner is what is okay. Like, as long as you and your partner are okay with it, then it's okay. But if it's a problem, then talk about it and fix it and come up with a solution and a compromise. But people are so judgmental about, oh, well, you don't pay enough attention. When in reality, a lot of people are like, no, this is actually something we agreed on. We talked about this. Even though it doesn't look normal to you, it's normal for us.
Yeah.
Right. My husband and I, when I was working in a place where it was a 24-hour facility, I found that I was constantly text messaging and all of those things were happening. And when we reconciled, we agreed that we were going to have a date night. That when we had dinner as a family, nobody had their phones. If we were watching a movie as a family, nobody had their phones out. We've slipped into some bad habits with quarantine and all of that stuff. But when life goes back to normal, those date nights will still happen. They were Thursday nights. Every Thursday night it worked because my daughter was out of the house at an after school activity until 9 o'clock at night. So we had time to reconnect and have that, whether, physical or not. Intimacy means many different things, but time to connect and be a couple, just the two of us, and not have to be distracted by all the other things that were happening in the messages and the emails. And that agreement was in place, and we stuck through that until our situation now. But it's something that I found made such a huge difference in our relationship to keep that connection going.
Is something that I battle with my clients all the time, and I know Lori can relate to this too. It's just that, like I was saying earlier, our business is our obsession. It's our child. And it's like, if someone were to walk up to me and I've got this kid, and someone comes up to me and is like, this isn't right, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to be like, you can go fuck yourself, so delegating delicately is an art, and learning how to take your claws out of it let it heal and let someone else take over is really difficult. I'm battling that with social media right now. I have another company doing it, and Lori, another OBM, had to be like, no, put your CEO hat on. Cause I'm like, oh, I'll redo the graphics. I don't like them. So I'll just redo them and send them to them and be like, this is the right way, my way, and this is the wrong way. And she was like, no, you're paying them to do that. Give them the corrections and let them do the work. So I felt a little hypocritical in that moment too, because that's what I preach to my clients all the time. It's like, we can only handle so much as one person. And the whole goal in building our business is to build it big enough that we're able to help as many people as we can. And a part of doing that is delegating and letting people take over. And as far as like shutting off around certain days, I've found apps that really help with that. I've got apps that shut notifications down on all my bookmarked pages at certain times during the day. So I'm not receiving those messages. I'm not like, they're receiving, I'm getting them, but I'm not getting the notifications for them. So it's easier to out of sight, out of mind. And then iPhone has the sleeping thing where you can shut everything down completely between certain hours. So I found that really helps a lot. And I'm really jealous because Androids, the one thing that I like over Androids is my partner, he can take his phone and flip it face down and it shuts all notifications off. Like he can't receive anything. And I'm like, man, that would be a dream.
When bringing people on too, I work on a level of, I want to bring somebody on who thinks in a way that I don't. So I'm not above you. You are my teammate. So when I want somebody who is thinking a certain way. So I'm saying, hey, what do you think about this? When I brought on my first salesperson, I was like, what do you think? And they were actually shocked. They're like, what do you mean? What do I think? You're the one in charge. And I'm like, no, you have a lot to offer that I didn't even realize myself. So what do you think about this? It's not. And that's another thing about letting go is understand that you are not everything. You know what I mean? You can't be, none of us are. So hire people who think differently than you do.
Well, it's funny. You guys know I've been an executive assistant to some pretty big people in my life, as well as being a makeup artist. And I talk about that in my bio. But one of those people that I used to work for said to me, well, Natalie, people hire people to manage them because you can't manage yourself. So I'm like, how can I be an assistant and then have my own assistant? He's like, because you need somebody to manage you, right? So it's also accepting that you can manage yourself to a point, but when you have somebody else managing you, your time, helping you with your deliverables, telling you, okay, you have to make sure you focus on this because this isn't as important, but we make everything in our businesses the most important thing at all times, right? Because it's our babies. So we don't have somebody to be like, that can wait until next week, right? Or that can wait till tomorrow, or you need to speak with this person today, but not next week. And I used to do that for those people and for this person in particular. And the other day he said, you need somebody to manage you because you can't manage yourself, even though you think you can. So it's also like recognizing that you do need help, and it's okay to have help, and it's okay to let somebody tell you, and you might think something's the most important thing, but it's really not, because it's an outsider looking and like, no, that's not that important today. So.
Well, I think that's important if we're looking at like intimacy in our business, because what we're all kind of saying is that by having a team and people that are experts in their own domain come on and help us, we're keeping the intimacy within our craft, so to say, rather than like if we were delegating them in some ways, that term in itself means that we're giving up the control and that we just want to wash our hands of it and someone else take care of it. And then that leaves us to walk away from the intimacy. And that's probably why a lot of business people, especially entrepreneurs, pull back from having a team member come on because we feel like we have to delegate rather than to include people in on our team.
Mm-hmm. Right. That was the struggle with me for hiring a social media manager, because I know I don't do social media strategy. I'm great with when should we be working on this and prioritizing and goal setting. But when it comes to what hashtag should I use, what topic should I talk about today? Like, I don't have a freaking clue on that. So right off the bat to the social media manager, I was like, look, what you tell me to write about and what you tell, like what hashtags you put, I'm just going to go with it because you're the expert. I'm not. But I have a degree in graphic design. So when they send me graphics that are absolutely deplorable and they're not even following my brand, the Karen in me comes out and I'm like, excuse me, what are you, And so yeah, no, that was really difficult for me, but it was a lesson for sure, because now I'm just writing down the corrections that I would rather have as opposed to just taking over and doing it. And that was a really important lesson as a business owner. I have experience in telling people to do that, but now I have experience in actually doing it instead of just taking over, and I have a bad habit of doing that. And I think that's why I chose the role that I did and the business that I did, because just coming in and taking over is natural for me.
Yeah. And can I say something too about the partners and the romantic side of all of this? I posted one time on social media and somebody said, oh, well, I can't see you with him, and regarding Keith. And I was like, why? It was somebody at work at my old job. And they said, no, I can't envision that. And I said, why? And they said, because he has the shirt on. Keith is a goofball. He's hilarious. And that's why I love him, right? That is why I'm with him. So this person said, well, I don't see you. I saw you with a guy, like in my head, you're with somebody who wears a suit and owns a business as well. And we're always being fed this message that we as entrepreneurs need to be with other entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And I have been told that story, and it's made me think in the past, like, is that true? I have actually thought about that and explored that in my mind. It's like when you're in the news, I used to anchor the news. People say, well, you should only date people in the media. Like you should only date anchors and reporters because they get it,
Yes.
but the thing is, I need somebody who doesn't get it to balance me. And that's why I'm with Keith. So there's like that narrative that's fed, and that crushes intimacy for me. Just like thinking of, oh my God, I cannot have someone who is doing what I'm doing. Like it's full force.
Before we started dating, we were working together. That's where we met, was at work. And we worked together, I think it was almost 6 years before I went to a different company and he went to a different company. But I found ourselves talking about work all the time. And because we all knew the same people, we were having lunch together. We were driving to and from work together. There were all those things. So our business life and personal life were so intertwined that there wasn't really the chance to separate it. We got married 3 or 4 months after I left and he went to a different role. So it got better from there, but it's really tough to separate yourself when you're working in the same piece of it. So I couldn't even imagine partnering with him outside of that. But in regards to the business piece with having him not work together, like I said, that 24/7 role, he was working at a totally different company and I was still always on, checking messages, responding to emails, text messages, things like that. And they weren't always things that I needed to respond to until the next day. But I felt that need at the time to do it because, okay, well, what are they going to think if I don't respond right now?
Right. Because you're now because you're working under someone. So now it's like, oh shit, I better.
Yeah. What's going to be the impact, right? And then it came down to making the decision that if somebody isn't dying, I can answer this tomorrow.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. We're seeing too, I have a lot of friends that work in corporate America and they're working 24/7 now because everyone's working from home, right? So corporate America is not creating boundaries because they're taking advantage of their employees because of all their time. And again, it goes back to like, it's up to you to set those boundaries, because if you allow it, it will continue. And standing up to your boss or to corporate America can be a scary thing, but most of the time it doesn't end up that you lose your job. It ends up that they understand that you'll get it done when you get it done too. That person, one of the guys that I used to be the EA to, I used to ask his wife, I'm like, does it bother you when he comes home with, because he works 24/7? She's like, no, He doesn't bring any of his business stuff home. Like like if he's had a bad day, he'll just say, I had a bad day with business. We don't talk about it. And we set the boundary that they're at home. It's the relationship is about us and our kids.
That's great.
Yeah. So I respected that a lot. And I'm like, how, and obviously that took practice to do, but now with everybody working from home because of the pandemic, people are having a hard time. Kids are homeschooling and partners are both at home working their corporate jobs. Corporate America is asking people to work 10, 11 o'clock at night, because, oh, well, you went and fed your kids at 5. So now, you can get back online after. And so it's just kind of creating those boundaries. A friend of mine put something up the other day, and I can tell you guys, my girlfriend Amy put something up the other day saying, this is my commute time home. So this is when I go on social media and my husband can't say anything about it. So she factors in her commute time, even though she's working from home, and that's her time to go and scroll social media, and her husband doesn't bother her. She's like, I told Eric, it's commute time. So he can't bother me. I could do whatever I want in this hour and a half of commute time. And I loved that because it's like, she's working from home now. She's not commuting, but she's factoring it in as, this is what I'd be doing if I was on the train or in the car. So I'm going to still do it. So it's just kind of like being creative and finding the balance that way, and finding ways to have time for yourself and for your family and your spouse.
So true. Because the God.
I feel that's a recurring theme with everything we're going to talk about, is the shame that comes along with it. Because even as you're building your business, like, okay, when do entrepreneurs separate their personal life from their business life? Because you work from home. This is your personal life in a business setting, and it is your personal life in a business setting, like all the above. But when I walk out of my office and I close my door, I leave my work at work. I don't bring it out in there. Yeah. And my husband and I have created a charging station downstairs for our phones and stuff. So we don't bring our phones upstairs into our room at all.
That's awesome.
That is just for us to sleep. That is just for us to connect. That's for us to talk about our day, whatever's happening, whatever. And so then in the mornings when I get up there, for a long time, I wasn't checking my phone until at least 9 o'clock in the morning. It would wait. Everything would wait. I would hold it. And then I would check it, and then I would deal with everything and then block out the different areas that need to be worked on during the day. But it has created so much structure and so much, just so much structure within my business from taking back that control, because this is my business. I get to choose when and where I plug in at, and when and where I don't, when and where I'm taking time off, when and where I, whatever. So, but it's not to say that, like, sometimes if he's working late, I don't come down and work until midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, because sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I shut off at 5 o'clock and we go have ice cream or whatever,
That's the art of letting go. It's like, just stop thinking about it. It's fine. The world isn't going to end tomorrow because you put your freaking phone down.
Well, I also think it comes back to realizing that it is your business, giving yourself the permission to create your own system and your own boundaries that feel right for you, as opposed to letting everyone else's come in and influencing what you want. Yep. Now you have to play around and find the stuff that is good for you, that's perfect for you in your situation. But I mean, to be honest, there's no two situations that are ever identical. Like, you just have to create your own.
Right. And our situations in our own are always changing too. And like, I personally have the experience of being with someone who doesn't run a business and has a 9 to 5. And then I also have the experience of being with someone who's starting their own business too. And when him and I were together, it was a constant, we just built each other up. It's like, hey, did you remember to do this today? Did you make money today? How, what are we doing? We kept each other focused on the real core money-making activities, which I think a lot of new entrepreneurs have a hard time doing, like identifying what are the things that's going to make me money and what are the things that I'm just focusing on to keep myself busy. And then now my partner he has a 9 to 5. I mean, he has other side hustles, but he's not like a business owner and he doesn't obsess about it. So he's able to be like, hey, remember me? You've been in there 12 hours. Hello. You want to watch a movie? You want to solve a murder box? You know, and that usually can force me out of my office. I'm like, ooh, crime. Yes. So I'll like dangle a treat in the door and be like, hey, come on.
Another thing that's annoying for me is that I worked in television for 10 years. So at family events or even with friends, like I had friends one time at a party, they're like, I'm going to turn QVC on. I'm like, please don't. Like, I don't want to watch the network. I don't want to look at it. So that makes it even harder. It's like, I don't want to talk about it. And
Hey,
like,
try being a makeup artist and
Yes.
having your friends or psychologists. They want free therapy, free makeup, free, you know, it's
that's
like
so frustrating.
we have to be intentional. Like the word is intentional. You have to be intentional with your time. I date a cop. Our schedules are completely different, right? And he's on for days at a time and whatnot, but we have to be intentional about choosing to make that time together work and be what we want it to be and make it what we want it. You might just find the balance right away, or you might go the opposite and then learn, but it's giving yourself grace, right? Like you have to give yourself grace through all of this, but be intentional as well and set those boundaries and make the time, because otherwise, you know, it will take over. It will always take over.
Yeah. Absolutely spot on. It's just a matter of finding your own groove, and all the people that come up with all the advice in the world started somewhere and they did not have it all figured out when they started. It was a process.
So true.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the next episode.
Whoop,
Thanks,
whoop.
guys.
Bye.
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 6 women on the internet coming together for intimate conversations about difficult topics with soft hearts and strong voices. This is Red Lips and Mic Drops.
Red lips and mic drops, thick hips and lip gloss. I'm talking issues and our thoughts. The world's unfair, so let's talk. Red lips and mic drops, thick hips and lip gloss. I'm talking issues and our thoughts. The world's unfair, so let's talk.